Author DL Tillery here, the Mistress of Horror, and welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, how about you press that subscribe button and ring that bell so you know when I'm uploading new videos. Welcome to Mistress Mood and Candlelight, where I talk about horror movies, horror books, and horror video games while I put on makeup for your viewing pleasure. Today we are going to be covering The Wretched. I really did enjoy this movie. I can't wait to hear me talk about it. If you haven't seen it, you need to check it out. This movie came out in 2019, not that long ago, and I'll get into all the details in the next part, but you should definitely check it out. It's a creepy good fun and monster horror, my favorite kind of horror. Do enjoy the review of The Wretched. See you on the flip side. And it's time for the premiere of The Wretched. I came across The Wretched by doing a search on Netflix looking for horror movies, and Wretched was at the top. I know I had seen it probably during the time that it first was about to come out, which was in 2019. So it's not that old. And I saw the trailer and stuff before it came up, and I was interested then because if it's a monster horror, I'm into it, okay? And it is a Pierce Brothers film, and it is about pretty much a changeling. And if you don't know what a changeling is, you should Google it. Let me stop. But a changeling initially is, or the Wretched, is essentially a creature that comes from a deep, dark, hollow tree stump, and it kidnaps children and it eats them. But that's not all the Wretched does. It also takes the form of people. It takes their skin, it wears it, and then pretends that it's them while getting the children and eating them and making everyone forget all about those kids. So, I'm primed for the premiere of Wretched. Let's jump into the story and the characters. Before I jump into the characters and the story, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using for makeup. I'll be using my Silent Hill palette set from Vampire Cosmetics. And I've done this one before, just once. And it has two palettes in it, which I'll be working from both of the palettes, the Pyramid Head palette and the Demented Nurse palette. And then it came with like 3 lipsticks that I also will be either utilizing 1, 2, or all 3 of those. You see the tones of them. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to be using that for my makeup majority for this one because I'm going to be doing a wretched look. Something wild, something dreary, because the Wretched is very messed up and dreary. I might even do a messy hair look at the end of this because her hair is pretty full. The main character name is Ben, and Ben is 17 years old. And I guess that right out the gate. He doesn't mention it until a little bit later in the film, but he's 17, and I knew that from the start. So the movie opens up with a rainy day and showing children's toys, different toys outside on cement and in a yard setting. And you get different flashes of different toys, and it's rainy and such. Then you see a young girl going to a house, up to a house, and she's wearing a raincoat. And then it says 35 years ago. And you're like, 35 years ago from where? So that happens, and she goes into the house. And as she goes into the house, you know, the phone is off the hook. She takes her jacket off, and you hear the busy sound from the phone. And then she's like, okay. And she says, I don't remember the family's name. Like, she's there. She announces herself. And since she announces herself, she goes ahead and, you know, gets comfortable and puts the phone on the hook and calls her mother. She probably asked her to call when she arrived. She hears sounds as she hangs up the phone with her mom. I gotta go. She hears sounds. So she goes, and what does she do? She checks it out. Because obviously that's the first thing you should do. You should go check out the weird sounds in a house you don't live in. So then she goes to check it out. She walks through the house a little bit and she hears the odd sounds coming from the basement. The next place you probably shouldn't frickin' go. Like, my girl. Did this seem like a good idea to you? Well, anyway, she goes down the basement steps and finds a picture on the some type of surface, and it's a picture of the family. And the father's eyes are scratched out, and only the mother and the daughter are there. And that's who she was coming to watch, the young girl. And then she hears something over to the side, and then she goes over to see what is the sound. And in the chair, there seems to be a form of a woman sitting, and a child is obviously on her lap because you can see the feet on one end and the top of the head on the other. And then there's chewing. The little girl's head falls back, exposing her neck that has been chewed away. And then the woman form turns around, screeches at her, mouthful of blood and sharp teeth. She screams and runs for the stairs. The creature is up and after her. The girl gets to the step. And dad is at the top of the step, the dad from the picture. She's like, wait. And he closes the door on her. And then you could hear on the other side her being chewed apart and slammed, and then nothing. And then on the door, there's a symbol that looks like a V with a line across the midpoint of it. That mark is important for later. So I would say the ominous point, obviously, while the girl's getting chased and then chewed up, was at about a 7 for that, because that's right out the gate. The movie's not playing, which I gotta say I like it, okay? Now we go to a scene with the credits opening, and then someone's being drowned. You can't make out the face. You just know someone's being drowned because they obviously are like not trying to be in the water, but being pushed in the water. Then it cuts away from that scene. It says 5 days ago from apparently the person being drowned. Yeah. You gotta pay attention to that because you could miss it. And then you'd be like, 5 days before what? And then it goes to the young man, Ben, on a bus. And while he's sitting on the bus, an old lady speaks to him and say, nice work there. And he looks down at his arm that's in a cast because that's what she's glancing at. And then she says, when he glances back over, aren't you the little artist? And he's like, why is this lady talking to me like I'm a kid? What? So then it kind of leaves that, and then he gets off the bus and has his bags. Apparently he's coming into town. He gets to his dad's house, and, you see a picture on the fridge, and he picks it up. It's folded back, one side of it, with his mom. Picture folded down, so obviously he's from a divorced family at this point. So, he's settling in. He has dinner with his dad or whatever. Chili dogs. And then his father brings out a bike and is like, oh, look what I got you. And he's like, Dad, I can drive. And like, Mom's going to give me a car. So your mom's buying your car? No. She's giving me her car. She's buying her a new car and giving me the old car. You said the Lincoln? Yeah. They apparently haven't divorced that long, huh? The next morning, they're going to work. So he's there for the summer, from what I gather. And they're going to go work. And this fellow works at the pier. Everyone's docking their boats and all that jazz. So as they're leaving that morning, he notices the neighbors next door. And apparently they're not someone who was there before when he did visit the last summer or whatever. And he's like, well, who are they? And he's like, I don't know. I think the house is just people using for vacationing now. So they glance, and it's a woman, probably in her early 30s or whatever, and a little boy who is probably like, I don't know. I guess he probably like, I want to say 8 or 9 maybe. I don't want to say any higher. I'm not sure. People it's older than that. So and then so you see them, and then that's just in passing, and then they go to work. And his son gets in his uniform, and he meets one of the other teens that's working there during the summer. Her name is Mallory. Um, and so she's spunky and all that and funny. So they getting to know each other and they're working, blah, blah, blah. He sees his dad kissing someone, like some chick that he doesn't know. I think it annoys him a little bit. Maybe he had hopes that his parents would get back together. No such luck, kid. That's not happening. The neighbor's house, like the woman and the child I mentioned, they are going through the woods. Okay, so they're in the woods and they're lost apparently. And she's like, "Don't mention this to dad." So then they stop off for a break, a little pee break, and then she gets separated from her son. Then they show him taking pictures, and then he hears his mom calling for him, telling him to come here, come to me or whatever. And her voice is coming from a weird looking, like creepy stump that's twisted and sticks coming out this way and that way. And nothing you want to go towards, and it's like demanding that you come to me, and kind of like battering, like it's fussing, like telling a parent is upset because you're not listening. And he's like creeped out, like what? And then you see a claw saw coming from around inside the hollow tree stump. And he's like, whoa. He's behind a tree, a little bit away, and you can see it. And then his mom shows up. There you are, Dylan. And so they leave, and then as they leave, you see they pan out, and then the trunk is gone. It disappeared. So yeah, yay, no. Back to the neighbor's house, and now you see the husband arriving with another baby. So they have another child that's younger, baby age. You're gonna carry him, and he sees a dead deer in the back of the pickup truck that his wife was driving, apparently. And he's like, ugh, cringe. And so he goes inside, and then it changes the scene to someone watching like a video channel or whatever of gutting a deer and stuff and cleaning it. And he comes in, and she's like, "We have a buck or whatever." And then he said, "Yeah, I saw it in the driveway. Why is it there? We hit it on the way back or whatever." And he's like, "Oh, what? Like, are you okay?" She's like, "I'm fine. We're fine. The truck is fine." So, and then she like presents a combat knife while talking. He's like, "What are you doing with that?" And she's like, "Well, I'm going to clean it and gut it and stuff. But I used to do it with my dad." He's looking like, was that what? Is that what we're doing? Is that what's happening? And she's like quite convinced and confident. Like, I used to do it with my dad, so it's not a big deal. And he's like, you're gonna scar the kid. Like, talking about his son who's older, because apparently he's gonna be hanging with his mom while she's doing this. And she's like, you won't guess what she says next. I'm telling you, you won't guess. She says, "I don't want our kids thinking that meat comes from a store wrapped in plastic." I'm sorry, is there something wrong with that? Are they going to be butchers? You kind of teach them that when they're going to school about animals and farms and things like that. You don't really need to do all the physicality of the work of the killing and the catching and the hunting and all that stuff. Not that they caught this one by hunting, they hit it on the way back, which is relevant to the story, so this is important. She proceeds to do that, and then she has her son out there, and then she does it wrong. She goes to cut, and then cuts into the sac area of the poop intestine, which you don't want to do. So now all the meat's contaminated because you did it wrong. So the little boy's like, "I think you did it wrong," and then like she's like, "Okay, well," he goes in the house to wash up, and she's like, "I give up on this." Apparently, yeah, you did it wrong, my girl. Which her name is JJ. You did it wrong. Later that night, the deer that's covered up in the tarp now and left out there, that wasn't a good idea anyway, because animals would be drawn to that, but I'll let it go. The creature comes up out the deer that night. So the body starts moving, okay? I'm gonna have some mess here with the lip powder. So the body starts moving, and then claws push out. and then it steps out. It's like he has a female form, the Wretched, and it steps out of the deer carcass, and I'm like, no, oh no, oh no. Ben is sleeping and he hears something on their roof because it's the Wretched. It's outside and it's on the roof. Ben is like, what is that sound? It wakes him up. And it's the Wretched on his roof for sure. But what does Ben do? What does Ben do? Ben gets a flashlight and goes outside to see what the sound is, what's the noise, what the ruckus, what's going on. That's not what you do, Ben. If you want to survive, Ben, that's not what you do, Ben. And he goes over to where the neighbor's house is because he's kind of following where he thought he saw something. And he sees a hole near the porch, like where the bottom of the porch is. And he kind of looks with the flashlight and sees a raccoon. So he's like, what? But as he leans up and looks across the porch, there's these eyes and this demonic looking slinky form looking right at him real quick. And then lights blare on. And it's the husband of the neighbor. He's also the neighbor technically too. He lives there. Well, they're vacationing there. And he says, like, what's up? I thought I saw an animal. He's like, well, okay, it's late, so indicates with his hand, like, you can go. And the kid's like, well, okay, let me just go. So, change scene to the next morning, and the little boy is coming outside to play. He seems to switch over to Ben, ready to head into work with his dad, and he sees like the little kid Dylan playing by the porch with a stick, like he's messing with the little hole area that had the raccoon that he saw. But he's also worried about the other thing he saw out of the corner of his eye. And he's like, hey, don't do that. Like telling the Dylan, no one's outside with little Dylan. This is why you don't let your kids go outside by themselves. You don't do that. He is adamant about telling the kid don't mess with it. And his dad's like, come on, let's go. Something that's somewhat relevant or not really that big a deal. Before they pull off to go to work, Ben mentions to his dad about, I should meet your girlfriend or whatever. I guess he mentions like he saw them, whatever, and he says, I should meet her. Like, it's his idea. Like, I'm like, why are you even getting involved, kid? Like, why do you even care? I mean, you might care to a degree because it's your dad or whatever, but you kind of should just stay out of your dad's love life. Like, he's not trying to force anyone on you. You don't have to live together. So it's kind of got nothing to do with you right now. Like, I'd stay out of it. I'm almost an adult. I won't have to deal with any kind of inconveniences or anything. So I would not have brought it up. So they make plans for dinner that night, and she's gonna come over and they're gonna have dinner, blah blah blah. Getting his idea, like, kid, why? Once he goes to work, he meets a little girl named Lily. It's Mallory's sister, little sister. That's important because she's on the Wretched's list to eat, I'm sure, because most all the kids in town would be on the Wretched's list to eat and devour. So yeah, mentioning her for that reason. Back to the neighbor, JJ. She's holding her baby and humming and walking out onto the front porch. Drops the baby's teething ring toy. Once she drops the toy, she's like, oh, and then she goes to bend down the side of the porch where the hole would be. And she knows the plants are dying. They're withering. Why? She goes to reach out for one, and then she hears something behind the lower porch. But then she gets distracted by the baby because the baby starts to fuss a little bit and he poops himself because he's afraid. As she goes to go back in, they will pan out and pan in and show you that the flowers are withering and dying right there because the Wretched is there. And when the Wretched is around, flowers die. Now we're back to good old Ben. And Ben is going on an errand by his dad after work to get some type of bread for the dinner, some gluten-free bread to be exact. And while in there, he comes across Mallory, who invites him to a party. And he's on the phone with his mom. And his mom calls and was like, I thought you forgot about me. You haven't called me. So, yeah, I'm sorry about that. And then she said, how are my boys at one point? And I'm like, how long you guys been divorced? You talking about him and his father? Like, you calling them your boys? And then he kind of makes a face, but then kind of forgets about it when she says, so is your dad making this usual blah 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 for dinner. And he's like, not really. Like, he doesn't want to really mention it, that, his dad has a girlfriend or whatever, clearly. So he gets off the phone and then decides he's going to go to the party and jumps in the back of the pickup truck with the other kids, teens. So they go off. He's getting drunk and drinking and such. Mallory's there, and they're hanging out, getting cozy and whatnot. And then he's drunk. She's not as drunk as him. And then they lean in to kiss, and then my boy throws up on her. Yay. Now they're going to change scenes back to the neighbor's house, JJ and her family. And they're all asleep in the bed. The kids sleep upstairs in his room. They're on the first floor, um, the parents' room and the baby's room. And you can hear the baby starting to fuss, so mom gets up to go check on the baby. And as she's going to go check on uh, the baby stops crying when she gets to the door. So she turns around without going in and lays back down. She has a monitor camera right next to her bed on the table. And yeah, she should have went in the room. So it shows on the camera that the baby is not alone, and the Wretched is in the room with the baby, reaching its clawy hand through the crib bars. And then it kind of, goes off of that and goes back to good old Ben. So now it's back to Ben, and Ben is like walking off because I guess he had to clean himself a little bit up because he threw up all over Mallory. They're not together at the party right now. He walks off, and then he sees that girl, a girl who he saw earlier in the movie when he was at the pier when he first got there. She was giving him flirty looks or whatever, but she hangs with the kids that's trying to bully him too. Also could be a reason why they started doing that, looking at his girl or whatever. So she comes up to him and convinces him to get in the pool with her. She takes off everything but her skivvies. And then he takes off everything but his skivvies. They don't have bathing suits. Why are you in your underwear in the pool? Okay. So they're doing like a skinny dipping kind of situation. And then she goes a little under the water. He's like, hey, hey. And she pulls his boxers off. So now he's skinny dipping. Not by choice. If that had been a girl that a boy did that to, reactions would be different. So she does that, and then other kids come up while she's climbing out. So she's like, I'm sorry, it was a dare. So they're picking on him. So he got, can I have my shirt at least? So they give him his shirt, and he kind of covers up everything that he can, covering up his family jewels there, and skedaddles back to JJ's house. She hears something and stares a little bit, and then a little, like, they try to do a jump scare thing. And it's just her son coming in to sleep with them. He said, Mom, I'm not made of nails. So he comes into the bed with his dad and his mom. And then she hears something else. So she gets up because there's a toy going off in the baby's room. There shouldn't be a toy going off in the baby's room because the baby's asleep. But on the camera's moved in the room. And she's like, okay. So she gets up and goes in the baby's room and gets the toy that's rolled around and making noise. And she goes to go to her son's crib. There's like a bundle in there, but the bundle isn't moving. So she's slowly, like, nervous, you can tell. And then she reaches and pulls it back, and it's a bunch of sticks that have been gathered. Right. They're they are gathered sticks. So she's like, what? And then she hears a sound from underneath the crib. And blood is under there pooling, and then something grabs her underneath the crib. We know that something is the Wretched, though. I'm just saying, we know this. So that's it for JJ. She's been gotten, and they show you her getting grabbed underneath the crib on the camera back in the bedroom where the other son and the husband is sleeping. At this point, JJ is done pretty much. I guess we could say, but you'll find out more. And then they switch to Ben. And they switch to Ben because he's coming home. And he sees JJ walking into the woods. And she's wearing like a night shirt. And he's like, hey, like that, calling for her. And then goes to go towards her. But her dad pulls up looking for him. He said, I was looking for you. Where were you? And he knows that he's drunk or whatever. And he's like upset. And then he goes in and they get into an argument because he was supposed to come to dinner. Though, it was all his idea to begin with. And so, but he gets upset with his dad because he is a little drunk, and he's like, I don't care about the bitch, little bitch you walking. And he's like, whoa, and she's like still there, and she's like, I should go because he didn't see her there. He's like, oh shit. So anyway, that happened. I'm like, kid, you the one who wanted to do the dinner for no reason whatsoever. If you was just upset because your parents are not going to be getting back together, then I don't know what was the whole point personally, but hey, that's just me. The next day, JJ is very weird over there being all monstery because she's not JJ anymore. She's now the Wretched. The little boy Dylan is sitting in the living room. He's eating cereal. He's eating cereal and watching television, and it walks up behind him like, I'm ready to eat this kid right now. I'm hungry. And he doesn't know it contorting and being creepy behind him. The dad walks in, and they showing it from the view of the kid down on the floor. And Kiss is like, whoa, someone needs a shower. Like, that'd be the monster. So then he leaves and goes to work, and the thing goes and gets in the shower, actually, like it's still trying to, like it's being her. And the little boy's like, Mom, later the little boy's like, Mom, the rabbit, where's one of the rabbits are missing? Because it probably ate the rabbit. So he's looking for it and comes to the living room, and it's looking out the window, but it's naked and all weird and creepy and ominous. He starts backing up, like he knows this is not his mom, okay? Like he knows it. And it turns around and sees him, and then it runs into the room and closes the door, all creepy and shit. Like, what the fuck? Change scenes to Ben at work, and Mallory from a distance, goes to wave at her, and she's like giving him the cold shoulder. She's mad for multiple reasons at him, clearly. And so he's trying to get back at the kids to mess with them by dumping a whole trash can of trash on on the boy's dad's boat, who made the girl do the dare at the party. So that's his revenge kick. And yeah, that's going to come back later to bite him in the butt, but hey, I can understand for sure. We get Ben home later that night, and Ben knows the house should be empty because he got a ride with his dad's girlfriend because his dad was staying for work. He said, you just have to wait till I get off. And he asked her, could you give me a ride? Like, that's uncomfortable. I don't know if I'd want to get a ride from somebody I call the biatch. And then he goes upstairs. He hears something in one of the upstairs rooms. And when he goes in the upstairs room, Dylan is in there with the rabbit. And he's like, what are you doing in here? And he's like, stands up, and then you hear like Dylan from downstairs outside the door, and he's like, don't let her in. And he's like, okay, stay here for a minute. And he goes to the top of the stairs, and she's already talking to him like he's down at the bottom of the stairs, like, sweetie, is your parents home? And then she looks up a little bit at the steps and like, is Dylan here? And whatever. He's like, comes down, so he's like, no, no one's here but me, or whatever. And then as he gets closer, she's like, well, could you send him out? He said, I never said he was here. And then she's looking down, her eyes all glassy, like, you're a stupid boy, aren't you? I'll break that other arm. And he's like, look, lady, I'm 17, okay? And you get off my porch, off my private property. He's like, I'm 17, I'll fight you. Like, what you talking about? And then she was like, tries to open the door. He pulls it, goes like, you can't come in unless I decide you can. And then right at that moment, her husband shows up and is like, JJ, like, the lights are all off when I got home, something wrong, like. And then the little boy hears his dad comes running down, like, Dad. I'm like, kid, this was not a good idea. Dad not gonna be able to keep you safe, not from that thing. So anyway, he runs to his dad. He's all right, let's go home. And he calls to her. She looks at him like, one last time, I'm gonna get you. And then they walk off to their house or whatever. Like, yeah, well, she's mad because she's getting in her way at this point. You trying to stop my meals? Dylan is tucked in by his dad. Dad, mom's being weird, right? Like, this bitch talking by the door. Look, like, I'm gonna eat you later though. So she's stalking by the door. Poor kid. His dad talks to him, and he's like, your mom's always been weird. You haven't seen her, the Burning Man or whatever. And she's always been weird. So he's blowing it off. The kid's scared for his life. And that, yeah, he leaves. So I'm like, that's it for little Dylan, I can guess. I'm just saying. So, the next day, Ben goes to work, mostly, and then looks for Dylan because he's giving him sailing lessons. down at the pier, and he's not there. So he asks Mallory, like, where's Dylan? She's like, well, he didn't show up. So then he's like, okay, well, he runs back home because he's nervous and looks for the kid. He goes to the house and asks for Dylan. The dad is acting like, what? For what lessons? He's like, y'all give him lessons. Wait, for what? What kind of lessons? He's like, sailing lessons. He's like, I don't have kids. And Ben's like, the fuck? What? What you mean? And he's like, look, you can go ahead and leave. Like, I don't know what you talk about, but yeah. And like closes the door. He says he doesn't have kids. So the wretched is at work. It made him forget his own kids. So it made him forget the baby and now Dylan. So that means Dylan's fucked. They already got Dylan. I should mention too that the wretched tends to try to it makes you forget. It whispers in your ear, and then with the male to kind of try to use like sex to distract them, and then it whispers in your ear, and then it controls you and makes your mind go crazy, controlling you while until you go crazy and you off yourself. And when Ben's leaving the house after getting turned away by the dad, he knows the sign of the wretched underneath the mat at the front door. This prompts him to look up the symbol, and this is when he finds out the bloody details of the wretched. Okay, so he finds out the bloody details of the wretched by like what it does, signs of the wretched, the fact that it eats kids, all kinds of things. So he's freaked out royally because he looks it up on the internet and gets all the info he needs. Well, you'll need it to survive to some degree. Not that anyone's going to believe him. That symbol's always where the wretched is. Creepier. He tells Mallory, she's over his house, and he tells Mallory, because he did leave her like a little forgive me gift, like Starburst, because she loves them, in her bag, so she forgave him. I'm like, no, girl, don't fall for that. He was women in trying to kiss you, rather drunk or not, throwing up on you, and then flirting with the other girl. Great to do all kinds of things up in the pool. So yeah, no. Anyway, you can be friends with him, but don't let it go any further than that. They're like hanging out in his room, and she's like, what? He's about the neighbors, like all kinds of stuff. And she's like, I mean, okay. And if that's the case, then, because he tells about Dylan was up in the room and how that was all weird, she's kind of like, I don't know if I believe him or not. So then when she's gonna leave, so she leaves because he says, tell my dad I'm just not feeling well, blah blah, and that's what she told him. So that's why she's there checking up on him type situation. So he wouldn't come check on him because he knows he's lying. When she leaving on her bike, she like goes over there and leaves a note, and then says, I want to poke the bear, and puts a note under their door, like, we know what's in your cellar, because he told her about the cellar that he saw JJ coming out of, in and out of, as the wretched. Yeah, it's been going in and out of the cellar because it's probably usually hide stuff down there. It was bringing like a black trash bag out and then put it in the trash can. I was like, that's probably Dylan. Girl, why you messing with, he gotta live next door to that. But yeah. So this prompts the thing to get annoyed by this. And that night, when Mallory goes to work, somebody is there. And then a picture is missing off of the board at work. Like all the employees that work their pictures with their families and stuff. So yeah, that's not good. Not for Mallory. He knows about the salt. Because if you put salt around an area, it cannot cross the salt, supposedly. You can also throw salt at the wretch, and it hurts it or whatever. He's salting, my boy's salting around his house. Like, you ain't getting in here. Because he's worried. I would be too, living next door to that thing. He's salting around his house when he sees her coming over. The husband's outside acting weird because he's all effed up by that thing. And literally, because it's still having sex with him. So ew, gross. So he is salting, and it comes walking over there. And he's like, oh shit, and runs in the house. And it pushes the note under the door. This prompts him to be nervous, like, what the, this damn thing. So it leaves and gets in the vehicle and drives off. He goes and gets tools and breaks into the fucking cellar, because that's a good idea. So he breaks into the cellar and sees that its little shrine is down there, that it always has a shrine. He's like, what the, he sees like their family picture of the family that it's already inhabited, and the father's eye scratched out, and not the mom or the child or the baby, none of them. So he's like, well, right. So he calls the cops. Like, dude, what the cops gonna do? Like, what the cops gonna do? While he's on the phone with the cops trying to report it, and he's like, I want to report someone missing. He's just trying to report Dylan missing. Before he can even say that to the cops, they're like, who's missing? They're trying to get information. So with the fact that they're trying to get information about this from him, on the phone, he notices the picture of Mallory's family, her and her sister, and her mom. So their eyes and stuff are scratched out, and then his sister is not. So she's going after the sister, and they will forget her. He runs out, hangs up on the cops. They will be coming because he called them already. As he runs to the park near the pier to look for the little girl, because he knows that's where she is during the day, usually where his sister is working, because he calls Mallory on the way to say, where's your sister at? And she's like, what are you talking about? Where's Lily? And she's like, who's Lily? He's like, fuck. And he hangs up. And he gets there right after the wretch comes up in front of the little girl while she's sliding on the slide, takes her into the woods. And when he arrives, he sees them walking towards the woods. And he's like, oh shit, tries to catch up. And then this is the opportune time for the bully kid to come and push him, like, you dumped that trash on my dad's boat. Like, kid's not time for this. So they're fighting. He's punching Ben, and Ben's trying to fight him off. And then, his dad's girlfriend sees and calls out, and he gets away and runs after the wretched and the little girl. He doesn't make it. He gets to this tree stump opening just in time to see her struggling to not be pulled in. And he tries to get to her, but to no avail. He falls back and hits his head while he's trying to pull her out and passes out. And then it's late, sunset, what time he wakes up. He gets back home. The cops are there at his house with his dad and his dad's girlfriend. So she leaves the room. The cops leave the room, and his dad's like, look, like, pretty much, you crazy, son. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And he's like, Dad, like, it's true. Like, the kids are missing, making them forget stuff. And he's like, enough, Ben. It's over. And he's like, you broke into their cellar and la 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 and stuff. And he's like, ugh, upset because he's not listening. He's like, I'm taking you home to your mom, and maybe we can get to see a psychiatrist and stuff. And so his dad walks out the room, and then he's like alone with the girlfriend in the kitchen. And then she's saying stuff like, maybe I shouldn't say this, it's not my place, blah blah blah. And then she says something, and then he notices that the flowers in the window are withered. And then it turns gray in there, and then her face changes, and she's like, her arms up, like, ooh, and then her eyes are like glowing. And I'm like, dude, get the fuck out of there. He grabs a knife and slices at her. The cops is outside. His dad's out in another room. He hears her go, oh, like, scream, like, oh no. And then he comes in. She's pretending like she's normal. The wretched got in the girlfriend's body, already done dropped the other skin of JJ because it was rotting at that point. So now she's the girlfriend. And dad doesn't know, but he's like, Dad, that's not her. And he's like, no. So he gets arrested because he attacked somebody, like assault. Before Ben is driven away by the cops, he sees good old wretched in his dad's girlfriend's body up there whispering in the cop's ear, meaning he's in trouble when that cop gets in that car and drives him wherever. Okay, supposed to be going to the station. Sure. So the cop standing at the ambulance talking to her gets whispered in the ear, right? So with that going on, you know what's going to go down. They take off. He's like, Dad, no, blah blah blah, and he gets driven off. He's like, I'm coming to the station, son, la la la. So as that happens, he goes back in the house to tell her, like, I gotta go to the station. She's like, can I have a drink, like wine or whatever, like trying to distract him. And he's like, sure. So he like goes to open it for her, and then he's like, I have to go. And then she's trying to distract him, trying to kiss him and stuff. He's like, I have to go, right? So he goes to leave and gets in the truck and is like annoyed, you could tell, because his little ploy didn't work. And so he like changes his mind when he's about to leave and looks over at the neighbor's house, because he's kind of remembers son said the cellar, something in the cellar. So the fact that he wants to go check it out, he believes his son to a degree, which, yay, Dad, some pointers for that. And then it goes back to Ben, who's being driven. Okay, He's being driven to the lake, to a lake, and he is not taken to the station. He asks the cop, and he's like, looks out the corner eye, you see blood coming out of his ear, and then he comes to a stop, and he drags him out of the vehicle and starts drowning him, and he's fighting. And then you remember that this is the scene from the start of the movie. It was Ben being drowned, and then he lets go of him for some reason. You hear a dog barking, and the dog is attacking him, attacking the cop, and then the cop pow pow the dog, and then the dog goes like that, and then the cop points the weapon at Ben. And Ben's like stand up and kind of like, please no, don't, because he's trying to like get himself together from being almost drowned. And then the cop like fighting it. He tell he's fighting it because his mind is going because of the wretched thing, and then he turns the gun on himself. He he offs himself. And then Ben kind of crawls over and grabs for the weapon, and then they go to show Mallory real quick, and Mallory is on her way to the house. Um, and then it goes back to the neighbor's house where the dad is now looking in the cellar, but there's nothing there. So he comes up and sees the husband going over to the garage attachment of the house. So that has a whole area. He follows him in, and then by the time he gets up the steps, the man has already hung himself, and then he sees the skin, leftover skin of JJ over in the corner. Oh boy. And then he walks up and notices the shrine. In the shrine, there's like their family portrait of the family that it already offed, and then there is his family's portrait picture right there, and it shows up and stabs him in the back, and he falls forward. A fire starts, and he's stumbling, trying to get out. Tumbles down the steps, goes back into the main part of the garage room, and then the wretched is following him. Has its skull mask thing on, whatever. Oh, and it's his girlfriend's body. And then he hit, though he didn't go out the door like it thinks he did. And he hits it with a shovel, dislodging its head area, and you can see it like up in the neck, like because it's like wearing like a skin. Ooh. And he's like, what the what? And then it gets the upper hand and has him by the neck, bend over the table, and its claws starts coming through the flesh. And right then, Ben shows up and shoots that, and knocks it, falls on the ground. He's like, Dad, you okay? Like, no, he's been stabbed. No, Ben, he's not okay. He gets his dad out the door into the pickup truck while this thing is crawling up out the body, all slinky, like, I'm coming for y'all. I'm not even worried about my skin no more, because it's ruined. So it's busting up out the stomach and crawling up out like it's crawling up out of hell. And they're getting in the truck. And then all of a sudden it'll burn. The house is burning now because the shrine is burnt down and all that jazz. But all of a sudden, inside the house, they go back in where the shrine was and the pictures were. And the picture of Ben's family, it shows it again. And this time it shows a little boy in front of them. Now here comes the twist. If you don't want to hear the twist, now's your time to fast forward to close to the end. I'm giving you time to get out of here. You ready? The twist is, right after they show the picture of the little boy, it's burning. Then Ben starts remembering his brother. He has a little brother. They didn't let see this boy the whole movie. The wretch made him forget. So at the beginning, when the old lady was talking, she was talking to the little boy, like, oh, aren't you the little artist or whatever? Like, she was talking to him. And then when Dylan went to the house, he went there because he's friends with Nathan. That's his name. And then he was on the step when she was talking, like, hi, sweetie, is your parents home? She was talking to Nathan, not him, because he was at the top of the steps. Okay, she was like, yummy new food, So he made him forget his little brother. He made him invisible. Nobody remembered the little boy. But now the shrine is burned and all that, and the thing is weakened. So now everyone's child that they made him forget now remembers. So he is like, oh no, Nathan remembers his brother tries to go up, see the dad, I'll be back. I got to get Nathan. So he runs, his dad's like passing out. He runs back into the house, his house, and now goes to Nathan's room because he hasn't been going in there because he didn't have a brother, right? So the glass is broken from the window. It already had got Nathan. You hear Nathan like, oh, ah, you know. And then he goes to get gasoline, a rope, and salt, of course, and then runs out and then to Mallory, who's heading there. She's like, where's my sister? Because she remembers her now. She said, I gotta go find Nathan. Like, I'm sorry, like, I couldn't save her. I tried. And then she's like, what do you mean? He said, has her. What do you mean? What has her? So then they go to the woods to follow, and you can hear his little brother screaming. So they get to in the hollows there. There it is. And then he's like, I gotta get in here. You need to put the salt around this hollow here, the tree. Put the salt around this tree, and then if I don't come back in 5 to 10 minutes, you need to burn it. Okay. And she's like, what? Like, so he said to do it. So he goes in to save him, looking around in the dark for the thing. He only has a flashlight, of course. So he's looking around, and his gun. He actually did take a weapon. So he goes in and he's looking around, and you can hear sounds and stuff. And then he sees Nathan, like with this bark, like pieces of tree in front of him. So he breaks them out, and he's like, we gotta get out of here. So you need to go ahead. And then he hears the thing, and then he sees that it's eating in the back of the place. It's eating poor Dylan. Dylan's too late for Dylan. I figured it was Dylan's been in there too long, and it wants to run back there and eat because it's like they know where my place is at. So he's like, oh, let's get out of here, and try to get his brother to the hollow, and then it attacks him, and then he's fighting it off. Boom, boom, boom. He shoots at it, and then it drops him. He got a nice scratch on his stomach. He gets his brother up out the hole. The thing shot, so it ran off, and then he gets Lily, who's right there near the front. And so once he gets Lily out, the thing shows up again to try to get him because it was like hiding right there under the water. And he fights it off and gets out with Lily. And right then it grabs him by the ankle and is trying to pull him back in. Thank goodness Dad woke up. Dad charges with the truck and rams the thing. It can't come past the hollow line anyway because of the salt. They burn it. It kind of changes the scenes, and then it's over. So then the next scene that they show is of Mallory leaving her mom's house, and she's like, I'm heading out, and she goes to see the psychiatrist that they've been talking to, her and Lily. And then the psychiatrist says Lily mentioned something about burning the tree, and she was like, kind of to show the scene where they burned the tree. She says, Mallory, and then she says it's just one of her nightmares. So anyway, she goes to work, and then there's a bouquet of flowers on the middle of the office table. She picks one of the flowers up and embraces and puts it behind her ear, like so the flower in the hair thing. So then she goes, out to work, changes her clothes and stuff, and then you see Ben's family, and then Ben, and she's saying goodbye to Ben. They hug, and then she says, "This flower's from Lily," and puts it behind his ear, and he kisses her. Right? And then she smiles or whatever. And then as he's leaving, they're heading out of town. His mom came down to drive with them back. His dad's going to. And she says, "Don't forget me." Like that. And then he gets in the vehicle and they're driving. And while his dad is talking to his mom up front, he takes the flower from behind his ear and notices it's fake. It's a fake flower. And he has a worried look in his eyes like, this is a fake flower? And then it goes back to Lily sitting on the boat with the 3 kids that she was ready to take out on the motorboat for training, I guess, and the boats were sailing. It got in Mallory. So I imagine after the whole thing of them leaving, it didn't die, and it got out, and then it got in Mallory, and now it's great to eat those kids in the boat. The end credits roll. And she's looking at the screen like, I'm like, wow. So that's the Wretched. Like, I don't know what you guys think. Have you seen the Wretched? Let me know in the comments if you've seen it. I enjoyed it. I love monster horror, of course. And this one, it's eating and doing stuff the whole time, which personally I really liked. Also, what do you think about the look? Am I wretched enough? I don't know. I decided to do like this painting thing style that's been going around. It's kind of like a landscaping thing, black sand with stars, maybe a black sky. I tried something different. Anyway, I enjoyed The Wretched. I really liked it. I recommended to check it out. It's about to leave Netflix right now, so you might have to get it somewhere else if you don't watch it soon. Check it out for yourself. It's definitely worth a watch. And I'll see you in the next video. Stay scared.